Good morning. My name is Ruby Welch. At the present time, I'm a community health advocate at UAMS Hospital. My passion for formerly incarcerated, as well as myself, stems from my own personal testimony. Still to this day, 17 years later, it still brings tears to my eyes because of the mistreatment. I entered the Arkansas Department of Corrections McPherson unit in 1999 with all of my paperwork from my OBGYN stating that I had a pea size growing on my uterus. By 2004, and might I add, I weighed probably about 90 pounds at this time. By 2004, I was up to 169 pounds. I was bleeding 28 days out of every month. I was yellow. My eyes were yellow. I couldn't sit. I couldn't breathe. I was getting kicked out of programs because I would lean back in order to try to stretch my body. I was threatened every time I wrote a grievance of why I could not get medical assistance, that I was going to get placed in the hole, and that I'd wind up doing my entire 30 years instead of just 1/3 if I kept on. So I finally was able to get an attorney in Hot Springs, Arkansas, to contact my family. We got an outside physician to petition ABC so I could be seen. When the doctor walked in the room and he saw me, he cried. And he told me I was a trooper because he could not understand how for 5 years, something that was the size of a pea, that they only had to give me birth control to shrink and let it go away. They refused me the birth control pills. So I grew, cried. My uterus fell twice. I was in pain. By the time that I had surgery, the night before I went in, the nurse that was doing my EKG said, "When do you have your baby?" And I told her, "Tomorrow morning." I went in, like I said, weighing 169 pounds. I came out of surgery, which should only have taken an hour and a half, which took 5 hours because I had multiple organs that the fibroid tumors had wrapped around. I now have like half a bladder. When I came out of surgery, I weighed 124 pounds. I was ecstatic. I was sent back to the unit, was unable to have any type of pain medication, even though I was in the medical ward, wouldn't have been able to give them to any other inmates. They could have distributed to me themselves. I was only given Tylenol with staples that were from my navel all the way down. I can't understand how a system, just because I'm being punished for a crime, did I do it? Yes. Was I guilty? Yes. But am I still human? Yes. Did I deserve medical care? Yes. My only thing that I thought of every day was, "Lord, please don't let me die in this prison without telling my mother how sorry I am for disgracing not only her, but the entire community of Hot Springs, Arkansas." And when God saw fit and let me have that surgery, you can best believe that's the first thing I did when they had the Martin Luther King March in 2007. I went to the convention center, asked could I get on stage, and I apologized to the sheriffs, the deputy, the police department, and everyone there of the wrong that I did. But even with me being and knowing that I am forgiven, today I sit before you, still on parole after 10 years. Still on parole. Why? I work in the community. I volunteer. I tell my story. I've never used drugs. I wasn't an alcoholic. I was actually a great citizen before I decided I needed a quick scheme to get rich. I own up to my responsibilities. And right now, I go to the parole and probation office every Tuesday and Wednesday, and I speak with inmates who are coming out for the first 24, 48 hours, get them signed up for Medicaid. Why? Try to get them in for an appointment at our family medical center, because you do not know what is wrong with you, because nothing is going to be taken care of while you're behind those walls. Nothing. They're sending people out of prison without medication, knowing that they had medication in there. Why would you want someone that's been in your care for 10 years or more to come out with 7 days of medication, knowing that they're not going to have any ID? They're not going to be able to see any medical help. But thank God that UNAIM has heard the cry and put me in a position where I look at the people that are most traumatic. And every Thursday, we only get to see one person. So we still need to put a little bit more pressure on, I feel, the state of Arkansas to get better medical help. Not just for me, but just for everyone who we say, if you call us returning citizens, citizens allow us to return as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kenny Grand. I'm of Little Rock and Stone County, Arkansas right now. I'm a founding member and public educator with Central Arkansas New Agrarian Society. I'm a business development consultant and grant writing assistant with Delta Land and Community. And I'm going to be working with the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition in the next 2 years to work on policy recommendations for the 2018 Federal Farm Bill. However, by the definition of the state of Arkansas, I'm a criminal and I'm not a fully enfranchised citizen of the United States. I didn't get to vote in the primary and, a lot of other stuff. I'm a development consultant, but I couldn't sit these folks down together, and like I do with a lot of folks, and start working on business development plans and stuff like that because it happens to be illegal. There's lots of stuff like that that needs to be addressed. I'm a product of sort of the intergenerational aspect of it. My father and my stepfather were caught in the criminal system. When I was going to college, I was working 2 part-time jobs and going to school. A couple little things happened. I wrote a check that bounced for some textbooks, and a dog got out and I wasn't able to pay the bill. I had so many stacked up, failure to complies, failure to pays, that I ended up doing 18 days in jail for a failure to confine an animal charge. And this continued on. I had outstanding warrants because I just simply wasn't able to comply. All the money that I was making was keeping me from being homeless. So in Benton County, I ended up being charged with felony forgery because I gave the officer a false name on a traffic stop. And apparently they're really rough on that. And luckily I made it the 3 years of probation without getting brought in. But I'm very lucky. I'm sure all y'all know the numbers. We're looking at damn near 50% recidivism rates in the state. And I think it's a lot of fear of investment in infrastructure and really writing effective policy. We're looking at expanding our prison system, how much in the next few years? And if we were to, it'd be cheaper, more effective to concentrate on offering counseling services, more aggressive job reentry programs, treating the criminal is not a client until they're paying their fines, but continuing to treat them sort of as a client. If you don't want to see high recidivism rates, they need to have equitable access to, there's a number of small NGOs, there's a number of shelters and stuff like that, but they need equitable access to counseling. There's a lot of nonviolent offenders in this state that could have reduced minimum sentences and be put in touch with, a counselor that they visit with every week if need be, to help them become gainfully employed and such. But we're really not making those efforts, and it's a waste of the state's effort and time and a waste of the state's money to continue the policy that we have now of incarceration, limited services. There were a lot of people most of the people I was in jail with throughout my stints were there because of poverty, mental illness, or just being caught in the cycle. I was so tempted to sell drugs when I was in school to pay off those fines, but I ended up not doing it, so I was punished.
My name is Lisa, and I guess the thing that I feel I need to say the most is I've struggled with drug addiction, a 22-year addiction. I'm a habitual criminal. I did 6 years in ADC. I been in and out of court system all my life. Upon my release from prison, I remember an officer telling me the day that I was walking out the gates is that I'll see you back. And that statement made me so angry inside that I fed off that statement for months, and it kept me sober. However, whenever I got out, I quickly learned that the cards were so stacked against me. I didn't have a shot. I mean, I went back to where I came from, which was a very unhealthy environment. I went back there and I quickly fell back into what I knew best, and that was using drugs and selling drugs and breaking the law. And in the 6 years that I was in prison, I gained a normalcy of life, believe it or not, in a place like that. I knew that I could go without drugs and alcohol, and it was the first time in my life that I ever really thought that I could not get high. So I quickly landed back in jail after 6 months of using. I went to jail, and while I was in jail, I met a lady named Deanne Newell. And the lady told me, I told her the whole situation, that I'd paroled out to an unhealthy environment, and I didn't know what to do. I did not know how to live a normal life, and I needed some help. And Deanne gave me her card, and she told me, call me if and when you get out. If you don't go back, call me and I'll help you. And so that day, for the new charge I called, I got drug court. Drug court was all I needed. I mean, it was the structure that I needed. It was the accountability that I needed. And it was something for me to fall back on, where the parole system did an evaluation on me the day I got out, and I reported. Whenever I got there and they were asking me all these questions of this evaluation, I can't say that I was completely honest. I was very intimidated by them. I had just gotten out of prison after 6 years, and I felt like they were against me. I felt like if I tell these people how I truly feel, they're going to lock me back up. And so I found myself at a place where I lied. I told them exactly what I knew they wanted to hear. And they put me on a habitual criminal, a drug addict that's been in and out of jail all my life, 22 years. This went on through my life. And they put me on low evaluation, low minimum supervision. And, where I thought, okay, well, that scared me enough because I knew that I needed maximum. I knew I did, but I was so afraid to reach out to that parole officer or to the lady that was doing I was afraid. I was intimidated by her. I feel like today that, UAMS has come to terms with the fact that they needed an ex-felon to come and talk to, or a felon, to come and talk to someone that they can relate to. We need people to go back into the prison system before a release to talk to people, to find out, where they're at in their head, someone that they're going to relate to. We're not going to relate to a parole officer, someone that dangles our freedom over our head. We're not going to. There's going to be that one individual that may just, I don't know. I know from a drug addict standpoint, I feel like we need more opportunities. We need the resources available for us when we get out of prison. Y'all say no felons against felons. We can't associate with felons. The day I got out of that county jail, whenever I got out, the people that were there for me were felons. They were the one, I called the people that I knew had gotten out and turned their life around to lean on them, to say, how did you do it? And they showed me how they did it. Gina Graham, Regina Staggs, these are people that are also habitual criminals that reached their hand down and they helped me out. They showed me by example how to live a normal life. And this was 3.5 years ago, and this is the longest I've ever been sober and lived a normal life with a job, a tax-paying citizen. When You know, I posted on Facebook last night that I was coming here, and I asked a lot of my fellow felons, what would they want if they could be here to say to you guys what they felt needed to be said. And this is the list that they gave me. We need mentors that have been where we've been, that are living a right life. We need someone that can go into the prison system before you are released, before you've even made parole, to kind of evaluate the situation, not someone that's not been to prison or struggle with a drug addiction or struggle with mental health or struggle with, I feel like each caseload needs a certain person that has been there. You know, like when you're in a drug rehab, 90% of the counselors there have a drug addiction or have had a drug addiction and are sober. I feel like the same way needs to go with felons. And the no jobs, if you're a felon, if you have a record like I have, there's not going to be any jobs available for you. You have to be honest. Your parole officer will tell you don't file on an application. So it can take up to, I know people right now that have been out a year and still don't have a job because of their theft charges, because of their drug charges. No matter what they're doing in their life today, it's still held against them. No rent. The house I live in today is in someone else's name because no landlord will rent to me because of my criminal history. The evaluations, I touched on that. Felon and food stamps. You can't get food stamps if you have a drug charge. You can't make enough money with a drug charge to feed yourself. You can't pay rent, pay utilities, pay a car note, pay insurance. The cards are so stacked against us, y'all, we cannot do it. And the first thing our mind tells us is to go back to what we know. Because it's inevitable. We cannot do anything different because the cards are so stacked against us. We need their driver's license reinstatement fees. Reinstatement fees, I had to pay $1,200 to get my driver's license back because of all the different courts, whether it be misdemeanor, traffic, drug court, it doesn't matter. All of them come together and they all charge you the same fee for, whether it be one charge or 5. You're still having to pay a ridiculous amount of reinstatement fees. And then I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. We're getting close to 11, so I want to have some time for questions. So
Good morning. My name is Robert D'Angelo Lee. I'm a manager of a logistic company that makes $5 to $10 million a year. I'm also president and founder of a nonprofit organization called I Too Have a Dream. I'm also former incarcerated inmate 132806. For those of you that don't know, that's the Department of Corrections number that we're given. You've heard from the panel here some of the struggles that we go through upon returning back into society. One of the most things that I would like to talk about from my own personal experience is the educational part from the Arkansas Department of Correction, along as well as the training for returning citizens coming back into society, getting a job, or things of that nature. You take a man off the streets that go into the prison system uneducated, no job training, and you release him back out into society with no education, no job training, with a $100 card. And if you go to a certain bank, you're not going to get the full $100 anyway. They're going to take a fee off of it. So, and you place a man back into an environment where he really don't want to be. And without the proper resources, he has children, he has people that are dependent on him, and he can't feed his child. 9 times out of 10, he's going to go back to doing the things that he once did. From my personal struggles, I'm grateful that I had people that was there for me, like so many others have spoken on, that have given us a chance to return back into society. You know, the biggest struggle that I face is that I can speak from a man's perspective. You know, the black male makes up 8% of the population of the state of Arkansas, but we're 43.8% in the Arkansas Department of Correction. And with that being said, half of those men that are in the Arkansas Department of Correction I just spoke on are uneducated. They don't have job training. They come from families where their mother's probably on drugs, their father is probably in prison, and they're living with an 80-year-old grandmother on a fixed income. So with that being said, you take a non-violent offender and you house them with offenders that are there for murder, aggravated robbery, etc., what it may be, and you bunk right beside these individuals. So what are you doing? You create a monster. It's almost like the system is failing us once we return back out here to society. Let me correct that. The system is failing us. It's not almost, it's failing us once we return back out here to society. I'm not faulting anyone for what I did. I take full responsibility for what I did. And I'm just grateful today that with my organization, with these members of Marby, that we allow the opportunity for our voices to be heard for those that are still incarcerated. One of the biggest challenges that I faced here in Arkansas while I was locked up was that here in the state of Arkansas, a life sentence is a life sentence. In other surrounding states like Missouri, Texas, Louisiana, if you're given a life sentence, you are eligible for parole after you serve a certain amount of time in prison, 15, 20, 25 years. You have young men that have been there since they were 16, 17 years old, and now they're 40 and 45 years old, still in the Arkansas Department of Correction. You know, former Governor Mike Beebe, he gave a statement one time where he said by the year of 2020, the state of Arkansas will spend $1 billion to house these inmates. $1 billion. There's only 2.5 million people in the whole state of Arkansas. So you can give each one of them $1 million apiece and still have money. Education and job training is a must. You can't expect a man to get back out here in society. You heard the other panelists speak, you know, where individuals, I deal with individuals on a daily basis where they go fill out 50 to 60 to 100 applications a month and they cannot get a job. They can't get a job. The parole officers don't want to hear that. They need their fees. Then you got pressure on you from your family. And once again, I said, if you have children, your kids got to eat. So what do these young men do? They convert back to doing the same thing that they always did. You know, the organization that I was blessed to help found with the members behind me, we're working with the Arkansas Department of Correction, the reentry program. We're trying to get with the assistant deputy warden where we have petitions signed at the mentorship meeting at New Life Church, where we want to get with these individuals before they return back to society. Get them while they're behind the gates. Give them the mentors that they need for individuals that have made it out here and successful. See, you guys state that we can't interact with one another because we are felons. But can't no doctor tell me how to survive out here if you haven't witnessed homeless, if you haven't witnessed drug addiction, if you haven't walked 1 mile in my shoes. How else can we reach these individuals? By someone that has been there, that have changed their lives, and are willing to give back. You know, I hope and pray that we said something that would make you want to change some laws. To make you want to give us a chance. Because you state that after we do our time in prison and come back out and return as quote-unquote citizens, we have a right. Where is it? That's the question. Where is it? Thank you.
Thank you all very much. It was some very compelling stories. And unless there's a member who really wants to ask a question, we're going to move into the discussion period where I want you all to stick around because we're going to be discussing a lot of the issues that you all have raised. I want you all to know that your comments are not falling on deaf ears. I mean, everybody here is taking time out of their lives and jobs to do what you've asked us to do, which is not to leave populations behind just because they've screwed up their life. And that's true. And I know Department of Corrections and the Board of Corrections and Community Corrections. I don't know what it was like back, but I can tell you these agency directors are committed to the same thing. And that's why we're here. And so thank you all. And we want you all to be the norm. We want your success stories to be duplicated and replicated throughout the state. So thank you all very much for coming, and unless any particular member has a question.
I just have
All right, Senator Elliott.
this is for Mr. Lee. When you said you're working with the re-entry program, are you working with the community Department of Community Corrections? Is that what you meant? Or
Well, we were at New Life Church. They had a mentor, and I met the assistant deputy warden at the Esther unit. We were talking about a mentor program where we could get with the individuals upon leaving prison, catching them while they're there.
Okay, I hate to interrupt you, but I realize that I'm trying to, but you are not officially working with Department of Community Corrections. It's something you're doing. Okay, I was under the impression that's what you were saying, so thanks for that clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do want to thank all of you guys for being here, because it's so nice to put a face on these numbers we talk about all the time. It really matters. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.